Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and today we're going to be looking at my favorite decks for 2015. This is a really hard video for me. You all know that I love my decks for lots of different reasons. I'm not confining this just to one or two. I've already done my top one, which I will do as I go through each section, but I'm going to kind of go along the line because I have a lot of decks that I love for different reasons, but I'm going to try to stick with, for this video, stick with decks that I actually use quite a lot for myself and professionally, because I can really love a deck for various different reasons, but there says something about a deck if I'm actually using it on a regular basis. I think that kind of sets it apart from other decks that I just may absolutely love, but it's not something that I'm using all the time. So that's kind of how I'm basing it on. There may be some exceptions. And I haven't gone through and done all these. Like, I'm going to each section before. I feel like I'm in a really weird angle here. I don't know. Anyways, so I haven't done them all yet. Like right now I have the Lenormand in front of me, but I'm going to be so I haven't gone through and picked them all out yet even. So we're going to see what I come up with. I have, let's see, Lenormand deck wise. Oopsie, now it's all a mess back here because I'm kind of sorting through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11 or so Lenormand decks. The ones that I have used, now my top favorite, I'll start with that first. So this is Lenormand. So my top shout out for Lenormand, I haven't had for very long, but let me, and you know what, I always, before when I put this away, I just happen to have just done a reading for my niece, but I always put this one on the bottom so that I can see it when I flip it over. And I do apologize. I'm not putting on any glasses or anything because I'm going to have to keep turning them on and off. And I slept for 8 hours last night because I took NyQuil. My sinus, everything's just bugging me. And so I'm going to be sniffy, and so I do apologize, and I know my eyes are puffy because I feel very watery and puffied and sniffy. So I apologize for all this sniffing going on up front. But this is my Isabel's Lenormand that Quilfin made for me, hand-drawn, one by one. It reads amazing. If I saw this somewhere, I would have bought it. Hands down, I wouldn't even have questioned, I would have hit buy. But that it was made for me specifically is just the most amazing thing ever. And so this is hands down my favorite. And I have used this for quite a few readings. I haven't had it very long, but I have used this on a number of readings both for myself and other people, and it reads beautifully. So hands down, this is my favorite Lenormand deck, period. Other decks that I have used the most, I do use minis a lot because generally with Lenormand Grand Tableaus I'm doing them on video, and so I do like the space compacted space of small decks, mini decks for Lenormand when I'm doing a Grand Tableau. So the two that I've used the most this year, one is the Black Hand Lenormand, and that is the gorgeous back. I did color the sides black, and then it is all straight black and white. And I've kind of got myself at an awkward position to show, and some of these are upside down, but so I'm going to have to sort that. I have the camcorder way over here on my reading table actually, and I'm at my desk just trying to get the right perspective for my tarot decks. I thought this would be easier. So some of these are upside down, but they're just black and white, and they're gorgeous. They read beautifully. They're clear. They're simple. I love the backings. I love everything about this deck, and I use this quite a bit. The other mini that I use a lot is this is the, what's it called? The Game of Hope by For the Seekers. Now, oops, I have them flipped face. You cannot currently buy this. However, they have redone a version of it called I think it's going to be called the 1889 Lenormand, and it's basically the same cards, but they've redone some of the cards. And I have people ask me this specifically when I do Lenormand, the one with the moon in the hand. Let me show you that one. This one. I love this deck. And when the 1889, I think it's come out of Kickstarter, and as soon as it's available for purchasing, I will be purchasing a regular size version because I love this deck. I use it a lot. This is one of my main decks that I use. So a couple of the cards have been changed, but for the most part it has stayed the same as this one. And so any of the decks that I can come up with links for, I will try to put a list in the description box and then with links on them. So that's another one that I use a lot. And it's like, again, I'm kind of going off of that idea of decks that I use on a regular basis because I think that says, and then I might have a section of other miscellaneous, but I'm starting from that perspective. The last one for Lenormand, well, I actually have two, but we'll see. I love the Pixies Astounding Lenormand. I'm not even a huge Rider-Waite, Smith person, but I don't know why because I don't obviously read reversals. I don't know why my Lenormand's all whopper-jawed, but look at that. That drives me nuts. I think one of the things that I'm going to do for like kind of a refreshing of 2016 and over this next week is kind of go through all my decks, kind of put them in order just to cleanse them, but that's gonna be a lot of work, so I don't know. At least I'll make sure they're all upright. I just love this. It's simple, it's vintage, it's classic looking. I just really do love this Lenormand, and I use it quite a bit. So that's kind of fits my criteria. I haven't had it super long, but I do use it a lot. And I really do like it. So that is the Pixies Astounding Lenormand. That hasn't been out overly long. And then the other one, before I got that one, I still absolutely love my Piatnik. This is just a really classic Lenormand. It's the Lenormand that I learned on. It's probably always going to show up in my lists because I just think it's a beautiful example of a Lenormand deck. And I use it quite a lot. I've been using the Pixie since I've gotten that a little bit more when I wanted a classic just because it's new. But I will say over the last year, the Piatnik is a deck that I return to quite often. It's just clean, it's classic, and there's not much negative else to say about that. So those would be my top Lenormand decks, just in terms of the ones that I use. I love my other ones, like I love the Mystical Lenormand. I have various other Lenormand decks, but the only Lenormand deck that I have not liked, and I have not done a review on this, I picked this up kind of sight unseen because I loved the image on the box. I haven't done a review of this yet, but this is probably not going to be staying in my collection. Number one, because the cards are so big. I knew they were big, but I didn't know how big. The backs are gorgeous. I love that. I would have that as a tattoo, but the artwork is, in my opinion, not all that great. And there's these 4 figures that show up in every single image. It's a little bit strange. There's things about it that I like, but I haven't done a review of this yet. It's so big, I just don't know what you would do with it. It's like almost Oracle size. So other than doing like just 3 card pulls, I'm not sure what you would do with it, and I'm not all that thrilled with all the artwork. I haven't gone through and done a review of this yet, but this probably will not be staying in my collection. So that would be like the dud one. But other than that, I like all my Kippur cards. I would use any of them, but the ones that I have, so let's see, how many did I do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those 5 are the ones that I use consistently on a regular basis. So that's the Lenormand part. So I'm going to pause it and then get the... I needed to add in the Celtic Lenormand. It was over with, you know, I was pulling out my Lenormand, but it was, I have a shelf full of Will Worthington decks. So it wasn't in with my other Lenormand, so I didn't grab this out. But I have to put the Celtic Lenormand in as one of my favorites. I love the book for this. I love the deck. I use this a lot. It is absolutely gorgeous. And it's Will Worthington. I mean, please. What is not? This started the three voices. This, the Druidcraft, and the Druid Animal Prophecy, or Animal Oracle, you know, started my three voices, which is one of my primary ways that I read now. So yes, I could not have a Lenormand section without the Celtic Lenormand with artwork by Will Worthington and Chloe McCracken, who has a YouTube channel here. But I love this deck and I use this quite a bit, so I had to make sure I slipped that in there because I was putting away my Druidcraft and I'm like, oh no, that has to be in my favorite Lenormand. So there we go. Okay, I wanted to do a quick shout out. I do love Kippur. I do Kippur readings, and I love to do Kippur readings. And so for my #1 Kippur card, it is the Fin de Sickle, which is by Ciro Marchetti. And I think it's absolutely stunning. The only thing that I would say is please give me a playing card size version of this. I hope, you know, right now it's in special edition format. It's going to come out, but more than likely, like, this is the same size as his Gilded Lenormand. So I'm guessing it's going to come out in the same size. I would give anything for a playing card size version of this for Grand Tableaus. But other than that, this is my favorite Kippur deck. I only have 3 right now. I also really love, I guess I should just show you a couple of them. It's just Victorian England, and it is just, it's beautiful. It is not gaudy as, not gaudy, but, you know, the Gilded Lenormand is beautiful, but it's bright and it's shining and it's almost to the point of being too gaudy for me, whereas this is just stunning. I mean, this is absolutely stunning deck. There isn't anything that I don't like about this deck except for the size. And I like the size for some things that I do, my regular Kippur kind of reading that I do, but if I want to do a Grand Tableau, it's just too big. But that's my favorite. I do also like the original because I do like the original directionality is all built in. And so I do also like this particular deck. And I like the Mystical Lenormand as well. Or, I'm sorry, the Mystical Kippur. So I do like all of my Kippur decks because there's not that many Kippur decks out there. Quilfin has a beautiful one. I think a German one that I'm hoping she does a walkthrough of because I really want to see it, and I'll probably pick that up because, again, since there's so few, I probably will get any that I can get my hands on. But in that category, if I have to pick my top one, it's definitely the Fin de Sickle for that. Now, the other category that I wanted to, it's just other. I have 2 decks of cards that don't really, for me, fit in any particular category, but I really love them, and so I wanted to mention them. One is the Madame Endora's Fortune cards. This is stunning backing. I blacked the sides, and then here are the fronts. It is much more like a, I don't know, it's kind of a Lenormandy mix between Lenormand, Tarot-y, Oracle-y thing. And the same thing is with this on the other deck. I just don't know what category. I wouldn't call these Oracle cards, and they're not Tarot cards. They're not Lenormand cards. They're fortune-telling cards, and I love them. I use them a lot. I used them quite a bit during the month of October for a lot of Samhain readings. I did a lot of readings with this deck, and it has a very blunt, very quick Lenormand feel to it, but very different. But it has that sort of feel to it. So it's just a stunning deck, and I love it, and I used it quite a bit, and I still do. I used this in conjunction with the Halloween Oracle and the the Raven's Prophecy Tarot. Those 3 decks through October I used almost exclusively, and I just fell in love with this deck. So I haven't felt that I've kind of moved into another season, and I don't use it as much right now, but I love this deck, and I had to make sure I mentioned it. And the same thing that goes for the I totally just blanked. The Chronicles of Destiny. It's sort of a blend between Lenormand and Oracle and Tarot, and it is digital art, which I generally don't like, but it's very, for the most part, very well done. There's a couple cards that aren't my favorite, but it's, for the most part, very beautifully done, and I really love it. I did a lot of work with this. I like doing the airstrip reading with this. It's quite beautiful, and so, you know, these two just don't, they go into sort of their own thing. They've kind of gone and done their own system, so to speak, or merged some systems, and so there's not really a category for those 2 decks, but I wanted to make sure I made mention of them because I really love them. They sit out. I'm going to keep these down because I'm going to take everything out as I'm done and dust them. Well, I'm going to stick them up here, but because you can tell with them sitting out, they're ones that I generally do use. So I just want to make sure that those got a mention. So that was my Kippur and my other section. So I'll be back with Oracle, I suppose. Okay, so now we're going to look at Oracle. Now, Oracle is in some ways easy and in some ways hard. But I picked 6 Oracle decks that I really love. I use Oracle decks for different reasons, and so it makes it a little bit hard. Like, the Spirit Messages I really love. The Wisdoms of from Avalon, I really love those. But I was kind of going with the criteria of ones that I reach for the most. And I do reach for those. I haven't had them as long yet, so it's kind of unfair. So obviously I'll be doing more of these, and so those might make their way into this kind of what I use the most. But I really have to say it's pretty much a tie between the Halloween Oracle, which is an absolutely stunning deck, and I love it because it touches on issues of light and shadow. It works heavily with the ideas of light and shadow in a way that I think is absolutely stunning. I wish the same artist and author would make a Yule version and a, I don't know, like one for each of the 4 main seasons, or even the 8, whatever. I would just love more like this because it's just stunning. I reach for this a lot, whether obviously it's Halloween or it's not Halloween. And the one that ties with that for me, excuse me, is the Gaia Oracle. And the funny thing is I find myself I'm sorry, I just feel like I'm just in the most awkward position to try to show things to. I have reviews probably of all of these. I may link all my reviews. I don't know. That could be quite a lot of work to do, so I'm not going to promise that. But I do have if you go to, I try to keep my videos very much playlist organized. So if you go to playlists, you know, if you are looking on my YouTube channel and go to playlist, there is a playlist of deck reviews. And so all my deck reviews are in there, and for the most part, there may be 1 or 2 that slipped out. But I try to keep everything in a pretty strongly in playlists. So the Gaia Oracle, I do use with an I Ching reading that I do also, but I tend to use this a lot just as a straight up oracle where I just pull one and kind of go off of it because the images are so stunning by themselves, even separated out from, you know, they so much, I think, get at the essence of some of the hexagrams, or not, of the hexagrams that they are representing, and the keywords are so well done at the bottom that I do find I use this a lot just as a straight up oracle deck. It works beautifully for whatever reason with the Wild Unknown. It works beautifully with the Fountain Tarot. Those are 2 that I use this a lot with. Personally, I think it works with just about every deck. But it's a beautiful oracle card system, and even if you don't want to learn I Ching, if you don't want to go through and really learn all the hexagrams and the trigrams and things, just as a straight up oracle based off the image and the keywords, this is a beautiful, beautiful deck. The cardstock is my absolute favorite. It's perfect in my opinion, and the backings are stunning. It's just a beautiful oracle system, even if you never pick up coins to toss, you know, the I Ching or I Ching. So that one was upside down. But yeah, so this is, this one and the Halloween Oracle are probably tied as my top 2 favorite oracle decks. But I also, these other ones I love and I use quite a bit. The next one is my longest, or the oldest, I think it's one of my first oracle decks I got, which is the Sacred Rebels. And I think this is a absolutely stunning oracle deck. The only issue that I have, and this does have some shadow in it, but a lot of it is affirmation, which again, I'm not opposed to affirming people and having affirmations, but because I'm most often using oracles in 3 voices readings, I really do want a deck when I'm doing my 3 voices, because I'm coming at a situation from Lenormand or Kippur, then tarot, and then oracle voices. And so when I'm doing that, I'm really not looking for an affirmation. I need there to be light and shadow, dark, hard things and, you know, positive things. I don't want to say positive and negative, but light and shadow, the hard things in life as well as the easy things in life, or the uplifting things in life. And so because of that, it limits what I will use for those 3 voices, which is a primary reading that I do, both the regular and the extended one. So that is why for those readings I'm generally pulling from the Tao or from the Halloween Oracle. If I'm just doing a regular tarot reading where I'm pulling an affirmation card, which I love to do, just what is a positive message at the end to kind of keep in mind, to pull everything together, then I love the Sacred Rebels. And sometimes I will use this for 3 voices. This is one of those that's right on the edge. It does touch on shadow issues, but it's over, you know, it has more positive affirmation than it does touching on shadow. But it is a beautiful deck, and it's one of my favorite decks. I do love this deck. The other that I really love, which is so surprising, which was gifted to me by Boho Gypsy, and I wouldn't have known that I would never have bought this probably for myself because it's a collage art deck. And so I just didn't think I'd like the imagery. But this is quite a stunning deck, and I have fallen in love with it. Of course, it helps that it has Waterhouse images in it. But I do find it has enough. I do use this in 3 voices because it does have, that's probably my least favorite in the whole deck. But it's just stunning, and it works gorgeous with, I love this card. It works beautiful with Pixie's Astounding Lenormand. I use it a lot with 3 voices with that deck. So for me, it just is gorgeous with that. It goes gorgeous with the Terra Muha. I've used this actually with quite a few different decks, and I really love this deck. It would definitely have to be in my top oracle decks. The next one is quite a small one. This is the Earthbound Oracle. I love this deck so much, I can't even tell you. I have recently was gifted the Wooden Tarot. I haven't done enough work with that yet I haven't, you know, I've literally just done the walkthrough for it and haven't even put that up because I want to work with it a little bit more. But this I have worked with quite a lot, and I love it. I've used it for, it has both, as you can see, failure. It has both light and shadow in it. It has a directness of sort of the wild unknown. I got it because I thought it would go good with the wild unknown. I use it with all kinds of things because it always stays on my reading table. If I want to clarify something, I very often grab this one. And it's just, the artwork is gorgeous. It's by Skull Garden. and it doesn't have any of the, what some people think is kind of off of the wooden tarot. There's not like 3 eyes and things like that. It's just very nature, very earth-based, very grounded, very blunt, very pentacle-y energy feel. And I just love it. I love this Oracle deck. So if you don't want the wooden tarot because of the kind of ethereal, surrealness of some of the imagery, I still highly recommend it. The only card that I took out of this was the card for luck, which was a rabbit's foot, because that's always creeped me out since I was a kid, and I don't find anything lucky about a dead rabbit foot. So I pulled that card out. But other than that, this deck is perfect, and I use it constantly. It's always on my reading table. So of course that had to be put on here. I have used this, I don't know, this is the other one that I have out, and this one is all, I believe, whopper-jawed. And I know people laugh at me about saying that. It's all out of whack. But this is the backing. This is the Gaia Oracle. I traded Lindenhart for this deck, and I gave her a set of my stone oracles that I made. And this is the card for the back of the card, Sacred Heart. And I actually really love this deck. I do pull it. It does have, I'm trying to think. It does have, this is, for me, this is more affirmation. There is some shadow here, but I can't find one. It's more affirmation to me, and so I use this in a lot of the same ways that I use the Sacred Rebel. So I do quite like this deck. It's not one, it's kind of, I have mixed feelings on it because I was hoping there was more shadow in it. But I do really resonate with it, and I am called to use this quite a bit. So I have to definitely put this in here. That's Moonlight. How beautiful is that? So it's a beautiful deck that I would say that I use more along the lines of the Sacred Rebels. So I don't generally use, it's not that I don't ever, but I don't, because it depends on the question that my Three Voices is reading, what I'm reading for. So I do use the Sacred Rebels, and I do use the Gaia Oracle for Three Voices, but it's not like they're not my go-to decks for those because they are more affirmative. But in terms of wrapping up readings and things like that, I go to those quite often, and so they definitely had to be in my list. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Oracle decks that I would say are, you know, really ones that I use a lot, which is what I'm trying to keep this list to. I do love, like I said, I do love the Wisdom of Avalon. I actually really like the Psychic Tarot of the Heart as an Oracle deck, and I do use that. I just haven't used it enough that it would go on this list. I love Spirit Messages. I haven't had that long enough. Earth Magic I enjoy, but it's not like on a die-hard favorites. Those are the other, I'm kind of pointing back to these other boxes, are Oracle decks that I have. I'm looking out over here. I have Sacred Sites I need to do my walkthrough of. I do love like the Camelot Oracle that I have here, that is and as well as my Druid Animal Oracles. But in terms, so I do love actually all my Oracle decks, because I don't keep them if I don't like them. So I love all the ones that I have, but these ones that I've shown you are the ones that I use, you know, professionally the most often. So I will be called to use various different ones that I have. That's why it's really hard, but it would have turned into me showing you everything that I had, and that's for another video. I probably will do, I had done a like roulette where I did a video for Lenormand, with all my Lenormand, all my Kippur, all my Oracle, all my Tarot. I have done that in the past. I think there's actually a playlist for deck roulettes. So I've gotten a lot of decks since then, so I probably need to do updated ones of those. But this one is just, you know, what are the ones that I use the most. But keep in mind that for the most part, I don't keep decks that I don't like. So I do like all my decks. So, okay, so I'm going to put these away, and then it's tarot, which is going to be so hard. Okay, so now this is the really hard category because this is the tarot category. This is a hard one. I'm trying to, like I said, stick with card decks that I use on a regular basis, which is a different than favorite decks, because I have favorite decks that I don't necessarily use on a regular basis. And so that's what I'm trying to do is like, what are those decks that are active for me? So the top ones for sure, just, I would not want to be asked to keep just one tarot deck. I'm going to be completely honest. If I had to keep 3 tarot decks, so my top 3 tarot decks in order would be the Fountain Tarot. This is my top. If I could only keep one tarot deck, I kind of put that in one of my Vlogmases. If I could only keep one, it would be this one because it's neutral. It's, to me, replaces the Rider-Waite-Smith for me. It is what I think is a deck that should go into the centuries as being a key tarot deck. I absolutely love it. Energetically, it's neutral for me. It's that ground zero. If I don't have any other reason why a tarot deck is particularly calling out to me for specifically because of the question or the person, you know, sometimes I've worked with a client for a while and a certain deck really resonates with that client, so I'll go with that, or the question. There's just many reasons why I pick tarot decks. That's, I guess, would be a video of its own as to how I pick tarot decks. Because for the most part, I mean, sometimes people request decks, but for the most part, I like to keep control of that because I have very strong pulls as to what decks I should be using. And so I love the Fountain Tarot. I can't tell you anything. I mean, I just love it. It's ground zero for me. I will always have this deck, and I absolutely love it. Surprisingly, the second one would be the Wild Unknown, and this one I resisted. I bought and sold after about 3 days, about a year ago, and then this was gifted back to me by Patrick, and it has resonated so strongly with me. I have had, truthfully, I've probably had some of my most powerful readings for myself and for other people with the Wild Unknown. I don't always pull it out, but it's definitely one of my top 3 used decks since I've had it. And I have not had this super long. I don't know how long it's been, but I've done a lot of readings with it for myself and for others, and I've had some amazingly powerful readings with this deck after having bought it and resold it literally almost immediately. So look at that. So this deck is quite powerful for me. This is the first edition. Because you can get this now. It's back because it went out, it got sold out, but there is a second edition that you can purchase that is very close. I have watched a number of videos comparing the two. The differences are very subtle, and only one of the cards has been really changed, but even that, and I think I actually like the original most of the time on all of them. But other than that, there's like 6 cards that were changed, and they were very, very, very subtle differences. So if I couldn't get a hold of this first edition and needed to get the second edition, there's no reason, you know, I don't see any reason not to do that. You're not missing out on anything. I prefer the back on the first edition, and I'm happy with the first edition. I don't feel like I have to, you know, have the second edition. Other than that, I might need to eventually get a second one of this and the Fountain Tarot because I'd be so afraid I'd need a backup, but these are not cheap decks. So I do kind of feel bad because my top 2 are self-published, more expensive decks. But that goes to show, I mean, it really isn't, but I have other ones that are, and the rest of mine are just, you know, more standard priced decks. But these truly are stunning decks and resonate really strongly, and I get amazing reads off of it. The third one that I use the most is Tarot of the Hidden Realms. And this is a Llewellyn deck. This is not an expensive deck. It is beautiful. It's so different than the other two. It's very rich. It's very much, the viewpoint is narrowed in on human figures or fae figures, but it's on the human. And for me, this is internal power based. Those are the words I say over and over again for this deck. That it just, when somebody needs to get back in touch with the center of themselves, when they need to do some work to kind of revamp their energetic power base, get back in touch with their strengths and things like that, this is hands down the deck that almost all are human. There's only 4. The aces have animals on it and then 1 random one. But it's extremely powerful. I love this deck to death. It's fantastic. And I use this, I use those 3 probably the most. The fourth one that I would say would be the fourth that I use a lot. I do use the Druidcraft, although I will say not as much of lately. I have found, this is my first year using a lot of different decks, because before that I used the Shadowscape for an entire year. Before that I used the Llewellyn Tarot for almost 9 years. So this is my first year that I've actually been reading professionally, and so picking from other decks in order to, for using for other people, just in terms of the questions, in terms of the clients, things like that. So I'm finding as this year wrapped up that I'm a bit of a seasonal. There are, and I've seen other people do like these are my favorite decks for the winter season, and that's probably something that I will do this coming year, is at the end of sort of the winter season, doing my favorite winters, and then kind of doing maybe at the Sabbats or something, doing the past favorite ones, because I'm starting to see that there are decks that I do kind of gravitate towards on the different seasons. So this hasn't for me been so much in season, but the Druidcraft I used a lot, and this is a very blunt deck for me. This is a very clear, almost if you were going to have a Lenormand tarot deck, this is what the Druidcraft feels for me. It's very blunt, very clear, not harsh, but just very clear and direct, and feels Lenormandy in its bluntness. Very good for issues, for me, for issues of regarding work. Although I will say in my practice, most people who are asking about work tend to be getting Lenormand readings. So I don't get a whole lot. But if I use 3 voices with work issues, I tend to gravitate a lot towards the Druidcraft. So it is that sort of that energy for this deck, and I do use this deck quite a bit. Again, it hasn't been in season for me so much of late, but I would definitely have to be in my top decks. So those 4 I definitely have to make mention of. For a classic deck, if I'm looking for the Rider-Waite. Now, I have recently gotten the Centennial Rider-Waite, which I do love and I have been using, but again, I have a bunch of decks that I haven't used enough that I would be going to put it into a favorite decks. Yeah, I might make quick mention of them. So that's why some of the decks that you probably think, oh, I thought it would be maybe this one. If I haven't really had them long enough to see if they're going into this, I'm going to use them a lot phase, then I'm not putting them in this particular favorites. But up until, I got to Centennial, I have really gravitated, when I just want that Rider-Waite Smith classic feel to a deck, it's been the Terra Muha. I've used this quite a bit. It's beautiful in 3 voices reading. It's beautiful by itself. It is so closely tied to the Rider-Waite Smith imagery, to be almost, duplicates, but in a good way, in a sense that all those kinds of hits are there from the Rider-Waite Smith. I love all the cards except for the Judgment card is horrible. But other than the Judgment card, and that's 1 card out of 78, I just love this deck. I dyed the sides, and I love this deck. I really didn't expect I was going to love it as much as I do, but when I just want that classic, again, when I would normally, I guess, be gravitating, which I never really did, to pulling the Rider-Waite-Smith, this is the deck that I will go for. So that's the Terra Muha. The other one that's kind of similar in energy to that is the Tarot of the Old Path, which is, again, this is when I want the traditional kind of Rider-Waite-Smith, but with more of a pagan twist on it. This is, to me, a stunning deck. It reads beautifully. It reads with the Fountain Tarot gorgeously for some reason. I don't know. But this was gifted to me by Melissa and was a kind of a surprise. Like, I didn't expect that I would love this so much. I have the book. There's so much in here. This is another one. I don't use it a ton, but it's on my list because there's so much. There's animal, there's plant symbology going on. There's so much going on, and I have the book for it. I did get the full-size book for it. Trying to see if I can grab it easily, but and so I really need to go through this deck so that I can get all of the stuff out of it. But it does have my, let's see if I can grab it quickly enough, but probably not. I just had that horrible feeling like I had been going through all this and not hit record. It's such a terrible feeling. No, of course I'm not going to see it quickly enough, but it has probably, here it is, has one of my favorite Chariot cards in it because it has the 4 elements in the Chariot card, and I'm just such an elemental person. So yeah, so that's the Tarot of the Old Path. Again, I had to mention this because I do love this and I do use this a lot for when I want a Rider-Waite-Smith, but I will say that since I had the Terra Muha, and because I do need to do some work with that one, I generally, when I want a classic Rider-Waite-Smith, it's going to be the Terra Muha. I just love that deck. I need to put this over here. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, let me put, I don't want to start having decks fall down, so let me, what was this one? Oh, that goes for this. I have to mention the Raven's Prophecy Tarot, which has been heavily trimmed down and the sides blacked. I used this one almost exclusively through October with the Halloween Oracle, Madame Endora's fortune-telling cards, something else. Anyways, I put a lot of time. I did a draw of a day for this all through October. This is a stunning, stunning, stunning deck. Right now I'm not using it a lot because I've kind of used it a ton during the Halloween, fall, Samhain energy time, and so I really used it a lot, and it's kind of not in season, so to speak, feeling for me. But I love this deck. It's so simple, and so it's almost like the Wild Unknown, but just with a darker, different energy to it. But it's in that simplicity and almost pip-like nature of it. It's a powerful, powerful deck. I just adore this deck. This was gifted to me by a client, and it was, you know, just one of those game changer kinds of, I love this deck. And so this is the Raven's Prophecy. Again, it has bright orange. Normally it has bright orange borders all around it, which I took off. I did leave the bottom because I do like to be able to see, and for my clients, if I take pictures, to be able to easily see. So I generally will cut things to this format. And then I blacken the sides, and I love this deck. Yeah, has to be in my top decks. That goes back over there. I have to say, I can't have a favorites list without the Shadowscape. I don't use this as much anymore. I will say the Fountain, what I used to kind of go to for this one, the Fountain Tarot has kind of, this was used to be sort of my ground zero. That doesn't even sound right. It's not, I don't think I mean ground zero, but that sort of 0 point, that point when I don't have something specific to go to, this is what I would draw from, because I use this exclusively for a year. So this is the Shadowscapes Tarot. I still love this deck. I still use this deck, but I don't use it very often anymore since I have so many different decks that I pull from. And again, when I would have generally have used the Shadowscapes, I pretty much use the Fountain Tarot, to be honest. But I love this deck. I will always have this deck. This deck was a big a part of my grief work, and I don't know if some of that is also why I don't use this as much anymore. There was so much of my grieving work because I bought this just after my son passed, and so I don't know if to some degree, because I use this for myself, and I don't know if some degree this is sort of kind of shifted into more of a personal deck than a professional, and a lot of my readings are professional readings, and so I don't tend to find myself, even though I love it and I do use it for professional readings, I don't as much anymore, and I think it's kind of shifted into just being a private deck for me. But I have to have it in there because it was really, I shifted my gear and my feelings about it and kind of was moving to that process of opening up and reading professionally with the Shadowscape Tarot. So this is just one that will always have a place on my list. So I had to say that, as well as the Llewellyn. I don't ever hardly use this anymore because it kind of stays in my purse as a travel deck, although now I do have the Rider-Waite-Smith and have started leaving this out with my Will Worthington collection. But this is what I learned how to read tarot on. This is, this is the Llewellyn Tarot. I learned all my base knowledge of tarot from this deck. I learned to love tarot on this. I learned to read tarot with this deck. It was, like I said, it was my only deck for probably 9 years. So I love the swords in this deck. So I can't really, again, I don't use this, so it doesn't follow my criteria. I really, look at that. I don't use this deck a lot. Again, I think this is one of those things that has shifted into just being, it's sort of my deck. So I do sometimes use it because since and this has been heavily trimmed all the way down to just the images. This is a much bigger card normally. But I think that some of these two are like these two decks are initial decks for me that I really learned tarot off of. And so I think they've kind of shifted gears to just being my decks, and they don't come out a lot for professional readings, but sometimes they still do, especially the Shadowscape. But I had to at least mention them. I just feel like I have other decks like that, like the Heindel Tarot is to me extremely powerful. I use that in some deep healing readings for others, but that's also one of those decks that I think has pretty much become something, it's just a personal deck for me. I have a number of decks that are newer that I can feel might shift to being pretty primary for me. I have the Dreaming Way Tarot, which I really love. That's beautiful, but I haven't had it long enough. The Wooden Tarot I think is going to be, but I have a feeling this might stay more personal. I'm not sure about that, but I haven't had it long enough to know. I really love the Dragon Tarot. I have not used this enough yet, though, to make any kind of a judgment on that. I have, even Oracle, I have like the Oracle Stone. The Chicoli Tarot I use for just very specific reasons. So I have all my decks I love, and I use them for very specific reasons. But I really wanted to keep this to decks that I use a lot. And so that's the ones that I have shown you today. So there we have it. We have a quick, and again, I do need to do probably redo in the next couple months, maybe like all my collection, because people do ask me that a lot, and it has changed a lot since the last one. So I probably need to do those rouleaus again, but here you have at least my top ones. I will put a list of them all in the description box because I have been writing them down. I don't know that I will link them all. Again, most of these, if not all of these that I've shown, I have walkthroughs of. Just go to my walkthrough playlist and you can find them. But I may try to sit down and put links to, I don't know, we'll see. So thank you for watching. If anybody else, I know a lot of people are doing these right now and I really love to see them. I do want to do probably tomorrow, this weekend, I am planning on doing a favorites of 2015. That will be some decks, some stones, books, you know, kind of miscellaneous things. But so those kinds of things are all kind of going around the YouTube channels right now, which I love watching. So I will definitely be putting one of those up as well. So there we go. I did it. There's my favorite decks, or my most used decks. Let's just put it that way, of 2015.